The views expressed are not necessarily those of KSCJ and Powell Broadcasting Company. This program is not intended to replace the advice of doctors or other clinical providers. Consult with your practitioner to ensure the proper course of action for you.
Welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well on AM 1360, FM 94.9 KSCJ. This program is dedicated to your mental health wellness and brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency. Here's your host, Art Silva.
Good morning, and welcome to When Things Aren't Going Well. This show is all about your mental wellness and how you can help navigate the daily highway of life. Our show is brought to you by Family Services, a United Way partner agency serving the Siouxland community. Our topic today is re-entry in a self-care in post-pandemic world. So, COVID-19 activity is real. With us on the show today is Chief Operating Officer for Family Services, Brenda Geisinger, and Clinical Therapist, Amy Small. And for all the folks out there that think COVID-19's done, want to walk right back out and start life again and pick up the pieces where I left them, And I'm going to tell you why, because COVID-19 anxiety is real. Ladies, anything you want to frame this with?
So the American Psychological Association did a survey or like a screener back in April, and it said about 50% of people are really having some re-enter anxiety when talking about going back to face-to-face things, going to work, going to gatherings that are starting to happen. The other side of that is the anxiety of the COVID-19, but it's also on the other end of it, what are people going to think if I choose not to go? Or are they going to tell me, COVID is over, you need to get out, and I need to be faster at my reentry? So there's two sides of it when you think about reentry.
I think so much has changed and there's still so much unknown. And so there's all this anxiety. COVID is still out there. Am I safe? I haven't seen people. What's been going on? And all those questions come up and people just get overwhelmed. And there is a lot of fears still. And then, like Amy said, there may be some judgments about your decisions or thinking. And so it's really causing a lot of anxiety in people.
I think it's important that we all give ourselves a little bit of credit that it's hard to imagine looking back over the year what life is like in a global pandemic. COVID-19 reentry anxiety is real, and as you ladies pointed out, it's becoming more and more prevalent. So with that, if you haven't left the house in over a year, do you just rip off the Band-Aid and jump outside?
For some people, I think that's effective for them. I just gotta go. I just gotta do it. And for others, they're gonna take it small steps and a little bit at a time. I'm gonna try maybe, just getting in my car and driving around, maybe go to a drive-through, or I'm gonna start going back to work in the office a little bit at a time and work with the company I'm with. So everybody has a different pace, and you have to figure out what's comfortable for you, and yet kind of maybe challenge yourself of, I can do this, and this is my goal for the day.
So when I think of what, to add on to what Brenda's saying, I think and this goes with COVID and reentry, but it goes with other things at life. Sometimes we have to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And what I mean by that, as long as it's safe, it's not anything illegal or things like that, in order for things to be different or change, you might feel a little bit uncomfortable. And knowing how to calm your body down so you can get through that and you don't turn and run and go back to isolation is an important thing to learn. So, and different coping skills work for different people, so find what works for you.
That's really interesting because start small and try to find some friends to work with you. You have fears. And you have to confront those fears. I think there was a term doctors called exposure therapy, and that's just coming back out and dealing with this one at a time, and friends are always helpful. So let's start small. How about start soon? What's the timetable? Whatever direction you take, you should start soon so you don't stay in that isolation mode. Your thoughts, please?
I think, you just got to go for it sometimes. Today I'm going to take that first step. And like you mentioned, Art, just staying and not taking the step of getting out there is just going to further exasperate the situation. When you go into stores now that first time and you see people with no masks, it is shocking and it's unsettling and it's uncomfortable. But it's okay if you still want to wear a mask and do what's right for you. But we have to get going again.
When I think of this, it's, when you come up with a plan to reentry, it's just words on paper or a whiteboard or whatever you wrote it on, or even if it's in your head. It's just words unless you put action to it. And so I think that's really important that you're in charge of adding that action. You can have all these plans and ideas, but if you're not moving forward, whether it's today, I'm just going to walk to the mailbox at the end of the street and back. For some people, that is a big step. For other people's, they're going to go out and cannonball right into a big wedding social situation. It's whatever you are comfortable with. The other side of that is be confident in whatever you are choosing to do, so that if anybody does choose, well, why are you doing it that way? You can confidently say, this is what feels right for me right now. And it's okay. Whatever it is for you, it's okay for it to be that.
How about Silva? And you're listening to When Things Aren't Going Well. And with me today from Family Services, a clinical therapist, Amy Small, and Chief Operating Officer, Brenda Geisinger. And we're talking about COVID-19 reentry into the community. When you have these anxieties, and that's what they are about coming back in, the longer you wait, the worse they get. So really starting on some type, going forward, whatever direction is important. But how about looking at the big picture? Those who suffer most from COVID-19 reentry anxiety should always try to look at the big picture. And I think, Amy, you were talking about that, trying to look at family time, the outdoors, returning back to life. Try to keep that big picture out there in the frame so you can try to fill that void. Thoughts?
I think the other thing with that is when we're looking at the big picture, it went out of my head. Sorry.
You don't know how to really what that big picture can change. That 30,000-foot look that we take at, we're trying to deal with little specific things, but really it's a lot of things are symptomatic. They're part of that routine. They're part of that it's, I think we have to just be sensitive and observe and always trying to remember, what are we trying to accomplish here? Not what's gone wrong or not what little phase, but are we making steps?
And I think it's celebrating within yourself or even acknowledging it out loud. I made it. We did good. And it's a chance to embrace the joy of we're okay. It may not be what it was. It may not be perfect, but it's a good day. We're doing okay.
My brain turned back on. It just had a little bit of a lapse there. So when I'm thinking...
The best is yet to come.
Oh, my goodness. So when I think of big picture, I also think of what it does to your physical health, because increased time of anxiety can also cause your body to have some physical health symptoms. And so, while you can have physical health symptoms with COVID, the extended fear and anxiety can also give you some of those things. So I think moving forward, whatever that looks like for you is a really big thing to look at when looking at the big picture.
Well, here's something we all learned in kindergarten. How about buddy up? Try to find a friend that might be going through the same thing or can be supportive. Your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's like kindergarten. You look after each other and hold your hands as you walk across the playground. It might be a friend that's already back into the community and they can help you with that transition, or someone that has some similar fears and you can go through it together. It's okay to acknowledge to someone, I need some help, or reaching out to them and saying, would you be willing to go to a restaurant with me for the first time? It's asking and being okay.
I think the other thing with asking for a buddy, it's accountability. I've recently started working with a physical trainer, and I have a buddy that goes with me, and I'm telling you, Saturday morning at 8:30, if I knew I didn't have to pick her up, I would not have been there, right? And so I think having that accountability from your reentry partner is important too, because you're less likely to say, I'm just going to stay home today, I'm not up to it, if you know you're going with someone else.
Well, listening to that conversation, it seems like for some people this is going to be a breeze, and for others it's going to take a little more strength and determination. If you come to a roadblock, just remember that all of us here at Family Services are here to help. So if you need to, please reach out for a mental health professional. We're going to talk about the different personality types and how they can reentry from COVID-19 on our second half of our show. So we're coming up on our break. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back here with more of when things aren't going well right here on KSCJ.
Let's face it, that happens to all of us. However, the pandemic has compounded all of our lives and activities. Even the simplest tasks seem harder. Hi, I'm Brenda Geisinger, the Chief Operating Officer at the Boys and Girls Home and Family Services. Family Services is a United Way partner agency serving children and families of our community, and we're here to help. If you'd like to learn more about Family Services, please contact us via email, website, Facebook, or phone Mary Pickens. At Family Services, we change lives.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well on KSCJ. Here's Art Silva.
Welcome back to When Things Aren't Going Well. I'm Art Silva, and with me today is Amy Small, clinical therapist, and also Brenda Geisinger, our Chief Operating Officer at Family Services. And we've been talking about COVID-19 anxiety and reentry into the community. During the first half of the show, we went through a lot of examples and what we could do, but it's going to kind of break down into two types of personalities. And that's what we're going to talk about for this half of the show, self-care for the anxious type and self-care for the carefree type as how they approach going in. So we're going to start the anxious type, and these are people that are usually cautious, safety-seeking, internally focused. So let's talk about the comeback for the anxious type personality.
I think not necessarily being anxious, but for myself, I am an introvert. And there were times being by myself and isolating and being protective of my care, I was kind of okay. I enjoyed those moments, believe it or not, that I'm an introvert. And so to have crowds again and go back out, and then you add the complexity of COVID and these changes, it's unsettling for me because it was unsettling to begin with. And then you have this other layer. And so it's just being aware of that and re-entry at my pace and acknowledging where I'm at with that.
And I think you're right on with that, Brenda, because some people, there wasn't as big of a struggle going into more of an isolation because they would prefer to do that anyways.
I was like, yay!
I know. So when you look at that, it's more like setting small goals, just as if COVID never happened. We all know it did happen, but just kind of the same type of things. Like, okay, I am going to go to the store, or I am going to call a friend and go for a walk. It's just, again, feeling comfortable with being uncomfortable and pushing yourself to do just a little bit more. Like, just a little bit, I'm going to do a little bit better today than I did yesterday. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm not expecting it to change overnight. Just what can I do a little bit differently today that would be better than yesterday?
Well, when I look at this, the introvert-extrovert approach to this, I recognize both differences, and I'm fascinated by both. There's not one right, not one wrong. It's how do we get there? And sometimes just different speeds, different paths to get there. But I think it's real important to recognize that there are different types of personalities when you treat this. It's not one of these, what's wrong with you? Why don't you see it my way, et cetera. It's okay. So I'm going to ask Brenda, you think you were cautious in your reentry?
I've been cautious, and I still, even though I'm engaged with the community again, I think I will always be diligent and cautious. I hope everybody is. I also hope social distancing never goes away, because I kind of again, in the community, prefer that.
Kept flus and colds down.
That's right. But I think you just have to get used to it again and get comfortable with things.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. Got 2 front row tickets to Chris Stapleton. What are you going to do?
I would really have to think.
I'll pick her up, Art. I'll pick her up and we'll go together. I'll be your buddy for that one.
You'll help her out, huh?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, that's very true. There are some, live concerts coming out, and there's a part of me like, yes, this is exciting. But then I pause and think, do I want to go that far with going back into the community?
Well, COVID's one thing, but as we talked about, and this is my mental wellness, going out to concerts, which I love. There's a couple of groups I love to follow. I don't know how safe it is. I'm more concerned with the violence we're seeing and the uptick there at large events. And I'm really not a crowd person, except by choice if it's something I really want to do. So I think in mentioning that, I mentioned it because I don't want it to be a factor in my COVID reentry, because I got a little different personality than you. And this is why I'm asking you, you want to be safe, you want to be cautious, and you're thinking more long term. But I went to the Red Sox game on opening day. Well, it really wasn't opening day. It was the day after opening day. It was freezing cold. It was Good Friday. Couldn't even get a hot dog. Anyway, sit at the game, and I kind of liked it. Went a ton of people in there, maybe about 8 people in my section and this and that. Mm-hmm. This is pretty cool. No hassle, no rush. So there was kind of like a nice change, but it's not going to stay that way. We're looking at right now, people looking at coming back to work in the office. And for some folks, I respect that it's a challenge for them. Mm-hmm. And a lot of businesses, how they're going to approach this, some are saying it's mandatory come back. Some are going to go with a hybrid approach to it. But I get it. It gets into the personality of that individual, and you have to respect that.
Mm-hmm. And I think with that, when you're thinking about that, what you both have said really well is everybody has different normals, right? So someone who is used to being more introverted, their normal is going to look different from, I'm a little bit of an extrovert. And so it's going to look different from mine, where I am ready to go out and let's dance and go to concerts and have a hoot of a good time. Other people, even before COVID, that was not their style. So I think we need to be respectful and look at, that's never been something that they've wanted to do. So why would I expect them to do it now?
Well, Amy, that's a great segue, because we're going to talk about self-care for the carefree type. Spontaneous, novelty-seeking, externally focused. Would that be you?
I might check a couple of those boxes, maybe.
But I think as you go back out, I went through myself. I think I'm an extrovert. I went through a tough time not seeing people.
Yes.
That really bothered me. And you can fall into that hole where, oh man, you just start to adjust to it. You don't like it. So coming back and being out with people again and stepping out into like the restaurant settings, it's not the same yet. And it's very noticeable. I think there's staffing issues. People aren't too sure. But it's the first step. And I think for an outgoing person, unfortunately, sometimes we're the ones who are called on to provide the lead. So anybody looking for a good time and want to get out of a funk, call Amy Small, because she's outgoing and extroverted, and she's looking at it, she's just spontaneous. So how's that? Your phone will be ringing off the hook.
Oh boy, I don't know about this. No,
but live life,
Absolutely, absolutely. And you're saying, I think the other thing is us extroverts need to be respectful of those that don't feel as comfortable as we do. And I think that sometimes that doesn't happen, So I think that for everybody to be mindful of, make sure that I'm not going up and giving my buddy a real hug right away, because my buddy might not be as extroverted as me, or they might not be comfortable with that right now. So just because it feels comfortable for me doesn't mean it feels comfortable for someone else.
I think if you look at it too, you could also learn a lot from a different personality. Going out with an opposite personality is really a lot of fun, because you get a perspective that you don't have, and they can point things sometimes out in you. And why do you do what you do? And sometimes you can challenge them. Let's take this step here. Let's go try this. And then afterwards, did you like it? How was it? So, But that's the flavor of life. I honest to God believe that you meet different flavors, different things, and everybody's different. How well can you adjust to meeting that new friend? How well do you try to understand them as opposed to judge? And sometimes we get into that judgment call a little too much. So, this is reentry. It's going to take a while. We just hit getting close to our 70% vaccination rate. So we should be coming out. We should be alleviating all the fears. But again, every time we think we're getting there, we run into a problem where there's new variants out, and here comes the fear. Mm-hmm. So I think it's real important that a positive mental attitude as we go through this challenges and support each other. I'm a fan of get a buddy.
Yeah.
You get a buddy. Just give me a sanity check on what I'm talking about. So, it's been a great show. We're coming up on the end of our show, and every week we end our show with a little humor, because humor is medicine for the soul. So here we go. My boss told me to have a good day, so I took the day off. Brenda, Amy, thank you very much. We want to thank our listening audience. We want to give a shout out to some great people out there doing a wonderful job in the city. And I think that would be your United Way staff. If you haven't, get on the bus. It's a 100-year celebration for United Way. And I think with all the agencies, last I believe was 28, 32, I'm not sure, but they're our community chest, for lack of another phrase. So get on the bus with United Way. If you have any questions or comments or would like to suggest a topic, please call Mary at Family Services 293-4900. We will be back next Saturday morning at 7 a.m. right here on 1360 KSCJ, and our topic will be a surprise. So we will see you in July. Peace and happiness. May the sun shine on you. Have a great week.
Happy trails to you until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then. Happy trails.